I'm working in the New Perspectives Microsoft Access 2010 textbook. I'm picking up from the end of session 7.1 revised. This is session 7.1 alternate. I'm taking you outside the boundaries of the book. So again, if your instructor is very adamant about you following the steps in the book, you may want to listen to what I have to say here, but not perform all of the steps. This report is very skewed towards the left side of the page. So what we want to do is we want to try to take these controls and balance them on the page by putting additional space between the controls. So I'm going to close out a print preview, and I'm going to go into Design View. Here's my page margin. Remember from our page setup that we're using an 8.5 by 11 inch piece of paper. It's in landscape format, which means we've got the 11's the width, and we've got 1/2 inch page margins all around. That means we're working with 10 inches. We can't go past this 10. So I'm going to make sure my line and my page are aligned. They are. And my line's a little too high on that. It's sticking right up at the bottom of those controls. So with it selected, I'm going to use my cursor key, and I'm going to use my down arrow, and I'm just going to press it once and try to get that line to move down. Let's see what else I have. Wouldn't move down using just the cursor key, but by holding down my control key and using my cursor key, I was able to move it down just a little bit at a time. The arrows normally will cause controls to move one line of dots at a time. You can see it's moving from one row of dots at a time. Now put that back. The control key fine-tunes the movement, so it basically moves between each row of dots. So there's half a row, full row, half a row, full row, where this is a full row. So put that back. Holding down the control key while you use the cursor keys will allow you to fine-tune the movement of some of your controls. Now what we want to do is I want to select any one of the controls, get the plus handle up here, select it. It selects all my controls. I'm going to go to Arrange. On the Arrange tab, I'm going to find the Remove Layout. I'll click to remove layout. Those controls have all now been removed from the layout. I want to put space between these controls. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to deselect them all. I'm going to select the controls in my page header, hold down my Shift key, select the controls in my details section. I don't want customer ID, and I also want to make sure I don't get a hold of that line. I do not want to select the line. So I'm going to make sure that I'm pointing right at the top of those controls. See my mouse pointer out in the ruler, the vertical ruler, click, hold down my Shift key, take these. Now I'm going to let go of this one. I'm still holding my Shift key down. So come back and click on Customer ID. So I just have the matching controls. From here I'm going to go to ordering, sizing and ordering, and I'm going to look at space, and I'm going to increase horizontal. You see how the controls all jumped apart a little bit. I'm going to come back and I'm going to do increase horizontal, and again space, increase horizontal. Now before I go too far, I want to see how, I still have room here, so I'm going to go ahead and do it a couple more times. Space, increase horizontal, and increase horizontal. Oh, I did it one too many times. There we go. Why did I say that? Because I've got this. So now I deselected those controls a little too quickly, so I'll go ahead and I'll grab them again, this group. Hold down my Shift key, grab this group, hold down my Shift key and let go of Customer ID, and then using my cursor keys, I'm going to move those controls over just a little bit to the right until the space between Customer ID and contract number is the same space as between contract and amount. And I think one more will do it. Want to make sure I don't go past my margin. I don't. I'm still good. That looks good. That looks pretty good. Close enough. I'll go ahead and save. And let's take a look at this in print preview. Now you see that we're starting to move the controls across the page. I've got a lot more space between each of them. They're easier to read. Also, by taking the space out here, I'm now down to 5 pages. I was at 6. But when I removed the controls from the group, I lost that line that was above my grand total. That's easy to fix. We'll close out a print preview. We're going to go back into Design View. On my Report Design Tools, I'm going to look for Controls, Line, and I'm going to draw a line that goes from one side of the contract, some contract, to the other. I'm going to leave it selected, and I'm going to do a Control-C to copy it. With it still selected, I'm going to do a Control-V to paste it. You see, by doing that, it pastes the copy directly below the original. Then holding down my Control key and using my cursor keys, I'm going to move that up a little bit until it looks like a double line. Now, if I don't like where they're at or they're too far apart, no problem. I'll go back in here and I'll just grab these two, and I can move them down a little bit. And grab the top one or the bottom one and move it down a little bit. So let's take a look again, and it's looking better. So I'll go ahead and close Print Preview, and I'm happier with this report. It lays out better on the page. It goes margin to margin basically, and there's more space between the controls. It makes it easier to read. One thing I did notice is that now my amounts label, contract amount, text box, my lines, and my sum are no longer aligned. So I'm going to need to grab all of those and align them to the right. So I'll start with the amount label, hold down my Shift key and the contract amount text box, and then I'm going to click off to the left hand side and drag to select all 3 of these controls. Then I'll look at Arrange, Sizing and Ordering, Align, Right. And I'll save that, and we'll take one more look at this report in Print Preview. And I think now I will be happy with the alignments. That looks fine. The report is good to go.